Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with smooth jazz saxophonist Marcus Click. This native of Louisville, Kentucky grew up with aspirations of becoming a pro football player, but his goals changed after having committed over 13 years of his young life to the U.S. Navy honorably. During this time, his love for jazz grew by listening and learning from the late Grover Washington Jr., David Sanborn, and many others. He's got a new album brewing for November 2022. We get into that and so much more. Enjoy.
Thanks for taking a minute out.
Sure.
So before we get into your life and music, I want to know, as a recording artist and performer, COVID life was pretty hard on everybody, and I'm curious, how did you survive that 2-year period, and how did it change you now that we're kind of emerging and getting out of it?
At first, you just had to kind of sit back and observe to see how, what the next steps will be, but COVID, from a music standpoint, you just try to stay busy from home, see which ways you can maybe perform or make money or at least come up with a plan. So I did a handful of virtual events. It was really not so much about money at that time, although there were some grants that were made available and I received for being a musician. So that helped. But, trying to stay connected with people was going to be huge because after you didn't know how long this pandemic was going to last. But afterwards, you'd hope to have some type of, continued relationship to continue to have doors open at some point, So I just took it one day at a time, basically, and just stay busy, actually working on new music, write music, and I'm actually releasing new music soon.
You're originally from Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm curious, how did these seeds of music get into you to make you want this to be your career?
I wasn't sure if it was going to be a career thing because I had other aspirations at the time, growing up, but I loved music. It was, my mom played music at home all the time, different types of music, and what really did it for me was a contestant from the Miss America pageant I watched on television while I was in the second grade. I remember she was playing saxophone, and I said, that's what I want to play, because I remember hearing Grover Washington Jr. music, knew he played the saxophone as well as some other cats, but he stuck out my mind, and she did, and I was already enrolled in a flute class, but I didn't really want to play a flute. It just, to me at that time, it seemed too girly or feminine. But now I know it's not. But as a kid, it just didn't seem like the coolest instrument. I don't even know how I got started in a flute class, but I went back to my music instructor at that time and waited till everyone left the classroom because I was kind of shy, and so I asked the teacher, "Can I play a different instrument?" He said, "Sure. You know the name of it?" I said, "No, I can't remember." So he said, "Can you draw it on the chalkboard?" And I drew an alto, which kind of looked like one, I guess. He said, "Oh, yeah, the alto saxophone." I said, "Yep, that's it." And the rest is history. So I started playing in band, through elementary, middle school. I didn't play in high school because my focus changed into football, sports. Plus, I went to an all-boys Catholic high school because they were top football program in the city, and I had a dream of playing pro football. So, hey, I wanted to be in the best high school, So I couldn't go to college or something one day and move on to that, but it didn't happen like I thought it would. So music came back around some years later when I joined the Navy after high school because I didn't go straight to college. That's another story, but I got turned on to jazz, and it just brought back memories of when I played saxophone in school. Older gentleman in the Navy turned me on to some jazz, particularly with smooth or contemporary style jazz, and that's how I really fell in love and liked it. And from that point on, I didn't pursue jazz. I just listened to it, and I would buy it. And then years down the road, I started doing events. After I left Japan, I was there 3.5 years in the Navy, came back to the States. I was stationed in Florida, and it was 1990. So 87 to 90, I was in Japan. 1990, I got back to the United States in Florida for Pensacola, Florida for 5 years. Listened to jazz, started doing functions. I told my twin brother to bring my saxophone back from grade school. My mother still had in the closet, and that's how I started picking it back up. I took some courses at the local college to get back to reading and understanding the sheet music, and I just started doing small functions. Didn't get paid doing any of it. A lot of it was volunteer or talent shows or fashion shows. And then I discovered, I could play by ear, but I didn't know I was just doing it. I listened to the songs and I would just pick up on it. So someone said, "Hey, you have a gift. You should do something with that." And so that's when I really started thinking about it. I start meeting people, entertainers, well-known, famous entertainers. It's like, how am I meeting all these people? So I just, then I was approached by a young lady who asked me to consider playing, in church. And so I did. And that's how I got back into playing live in front of people. But then I took it a step further, and I would attend concerts and learn from other saxophonists and got advice from different types of, like Najee. I'm not sure you're familiar with Najee, Nelson Rangel, Mel Holder. He's my mentor now, Mel Holder, and I'm good friends with Najee. And it's just wild how it all happened. I played it before some of the Jackson family members at a show in Vegas up in their penthouse. And, then just meeting all these people and just playing. And I learned quite a bit because I hired a professional saxophonist to teach me, to get me to another level. And that's how it really got started, I just kept practicing, and then things start to open up. And when I met people, and I said, "Hey, I want to, do this for real." And so I would find myself meeting some of the people I listened to. I would buy CDs or cassettes when they were cassettes, and it was just surreal, So that's pretty much how it came about. And every year up until the pandemic hit, my music career was progressing rapidly by, being invited to perform at festivals and other venues. Actually, the pandemic helped me to stay focused, and so I started recording, and it brings us to the point where I'm recording a CD in November, and a single, my initial single, will come out of that. So hopefully we'll see more doors opening up and opportunities. So I'm really thankful, but that's just pretty much how it all started.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great timeline. I'm curious, what was the first live jazz show you saw that really blew you away?
The first live jazz show I saw, it was, that I can remember, it was Najee in Mobile, Alabama. I was stationed in Pensacola, Florida, and I was on that kick of learning smooth jazz or just playing. And I went to a concert, saw him live. he came down through the audience, and I said something in his ear. I whispered something when he was playing. Believe it or not, I shouted something on, not whispered because it was kind of loud, and he remembered because a few years later he visited where I was living and did a private show, and I met him in Pensacola. And so from that point on, it's been a series of whether it be emails or attending other jazz festivals where he's performed. So that's where I first saw my first jazz, I would say performance. But there's been other concerts for jazz that would say that would be my first one in Mobile, Alabama.
So, you get to do this every day. You wake up and you get to make music. What is it that you like the best about being a professional musician?
The creativity. I would say the ability to express how you feel or collaborate with other like-minded, musicians, not necessarily saxophonists, but, musicians who've been in the game for years, that, you share the same vision with, or that are great producers outside of musicians, and you can write music together, or you can, share your idea with them and put a song together. And the beautiful side of it is when it's all finished, you're like, wow, it just, from a thought to putting it down on paper to playing it through recordings and to hear it all mixed and mastered, the finished product, and just, being, it used to be just I would say, a hobby or stress reliever. But now it's a business, but it's also something I can enjoy and pleasure as well. So in leisure times, when I'm not out touring or, playing anything formal, I can still mess around at home.
So you've been down a lot of paths, from wanting to be a professional football player to being in the Navy, being a musician. You've seen a lot of things, and if you could go back in time, maybe to your early 20s or when you were getting ready to go in the military, and you could have a dream tonight and you run into the younger version of yourself, and you could give that version a piece of advice, what would you tell that young version of you?
I would say, if whatever you pursue, and I say this for myself, if there is a desire that you hunger for, a dream, and I echo the same advice that was given to me from various different individuals, pursue it with all your heart, put the time in, don't put it off, because time will pass you by and you'll regret it. But I don't regret it. I've been given the opportunity to do it again, because I put so much time off, not knowing, obviously, because I joined the military, but it came full circle in a sense. I left it in middle school, but it came back in my adult life. But, it was a gift, and I believe it was a calling. So as long as your heart is still open, you're focused, and your mind is right, or your heart, you can do anything. And I would say just pursue it, educate yourself, master your craft, and don't give up, because there was many times I wanted to give up, and it's paying off now.
So if you could get into a time machine and go back in time and see any show, jazz or even otherwise, who would you love to see live?
Oh, wow. I would like to see live. Wow. But believe it or not, I've watched this guy so many times on YouTube, and he's not even a saxophonist. I like Marcus Miller, bass player. Multi-instrument, talented guy. But also I like, Art Porter, the late Art Porter. I mean, that guy was just pure energy. He passed away some years ago. I think he was in his 30s, but, he was a temporary guy, and I guess his music was out about the time when I started really getting into it. So, and I ran across his music, and it's like, wow, this guy's major. And so I'd like to see him in concert. But, I mean, I've seen quite a few guys. Like I said, Kenny G, Everett Harp, Najee, Gerald Albright, you know, and Nelson Rangel. I mean, he's awesome. But I like to be on stage with some of these guys too. I've been on stage, but I haven't performed with them. But I did open up in October 1st, 2021. We were still kind of in the pandemic, but coming out of it. Here in Jacksonville, Florida, I opened up the Jacksonville Jazz Festival, and which means that Najee, you know, he came after me, so that was a treat. And Jeffrey Osborne. So, and I was able to meet those guys. So that was like a dream right there, you know.
Absolutely. You know, everyone has a perception of you, an idea of who they think you are, your family, your friends, your fans, but ultimately you live your life. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Well, I mean, I've evolved. You know, used to be the quiet guy at school, and I'm still a laid back personality, but now I'm probably more outspoken. But my personality in publicly is you know, low key. You know, but I'm a jokester. You know, I like to laugh a lot. Some people think I'm not serious, but I am. I wouldn't be where I am now if I wasn't serious about things. But it's just I try to make a positive out of everything, even though we have life trials. I just, you know, I love to laugh, and I like to give back in certain ways. But I don't broadcast it all. Some people may try to broadcast what they do. You know, I kind of like to do it behind the scenes. And, you know, and I want to actually motivate kids. And I've had, believe it or not, a lot of kids when I perform, if they're at the shows, they'll come up and they'll say things like, wow, you know, I play the saxophone, or they'll ask me a question. And or the parents that have kids, that the parents are not, the kids are not at the show, they'll talk to me about their kids and ask me for advice and such. So, or I even inspire the adults. Hey, if you have an instrument, pick it up. You know, it's never too late to start unless you don't pick it up. So that's where I am. That's who I am, and I think that's how I'll always be.
So I got to know, kind of give everybody a heads up when the new album, new single, any of your existing music, where's the best place for people to go to get that or stream it?
Well, I'm advertising on all those social media platforms. My website is marcusclick.com. Stay tuned for the updates. Official Marcus Click on Instagram. Facebook, you can just type in, official Marcus Click or my name, Marcus Click. I use Twitter too, but I have a YouTube page. You can search Marcus Click Jazz, or pull me up on, I have a YouTube channel you can subscribe to, and, you know, mainly just following these social media pages and my website. Also Spotify, Apple Music, and all the other, you know, Amazon, you name it. I'm on all the, you know, little platforms that they have out there now, and Pandora. So it's fun, man, to see your name there, and I never thought in all my years that I would be, you know, playing at this level. But then when I actually received accepted the call to play, and then anything's possible. So that's where people can find me, and I hope they look for my new CD brand new date coming out in November. Stay tuned on the platforms and they can get the new date. Should be announcing it next week.
Perfect. Hey, man, a third time is a charm for us to get together. So it's great to talk to you. Good luck with everything.
Hey, thanks a lot, man. Now, how are you posting this anywhere?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to have it. I got an iTunes channel. It's called Neon Jazz and Famous Interviews with Joe Domino, and that's on iTunes. And I just got it on Spotify, and then I put it on YouTube. That tends to be a honeypot, so it's a good place for people to get it too. So, but I will send over those links when I'm all done.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Yeah, third time's a charm, and I appreciate your patience.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in Louisville, Jacksonville, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Marcus for his time, energy, and cool. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends. I want to tip you off to a wonderful program I found out about. As we expand our reach, we have made some friends out there in the world that love jazz as much as we do. This program is fully endorsed by Neon Jazz.
Gerald Albright, Rhea Schneider, Charlie Hunter, Duke Robillard, Sean Jones, Walter Beasley, Steve Swallow. Something Came from Baltimore is a jazz, blues, and R&B podcast and radio show, and it's not really about Baltimore. Subscribe to the podcast and listen to your favorite artist or future favorite artist. That's Something Came from Baltimore. And be a part of that Be More music scene. Joe Lovano, Jeff Kaufman, Paula Cole, Danuzo Makatani, Ann Passio, Ches Smith, Thumbscrew.
Neon Jazz.